Now, John, the sad news is that Gordon Banks died, 81. You knew him very well. I think you played against him in the cup final in '63 against a very good Leicester team. I should just say that as background, he was born in Sheffield. He had 3 siblings, one of whom was a bookmaker. He himself started out life as a coal bagger, and then he was a hod carrier when he left secondary modern school, which was they were the sort of schools where they dumped working class kids. He then went and signed for Chesterfield as a goalkeeper, and they sold him on to Leicester after he'd played only 22 games. First of all, his ability, he's remembered for that save he made from Pelé, which was, and you were there at that World Cup. It was an amazing save.
I mean, even Pelé was shocked, you know. I mean, Pelé still talks about it to this day. I mean, Pelé was a great header of the ball, on the far post, and he headed it down like all great goal scorers do. Headed it down, and like Banks seemed to be on the far side of the goal.
Yeah.
And when he got there, not only did he get there, he got enough on it to time the bounce of the ball from Pelé's header to knock it over the bar.
Yeah.
You know, and Pelé stood there in amazement because Pelé could obviously, from he was only about 8 yards out, could see it going into the back of the net. And I think it was the most surprised he's ever been in his life, as most people were around the ground, but particularly Pelé, because there's no way that anybody was going to stop that. No, it was a great, and it's still talked about as we're talking about it today. Eamon's fantastic. But he's a great temperament, Eamon. You know, like I knew him only because I saw him at dues. I played against him for probably 10 years. Never got flustered, never lost a head. You know, you see some of the goalkeepers now, and they make a mistake and they're turning on the defenders and turning on anybody. But he was never. He just did his job, got on with it. Very placid. Brilliant ability, as we say, and I think he worked particularly hard, coming from the background that you illustrated there. That he was never got big-headed about anything. I found him anytime I met him, down to earth lad on the pitch, great temperament, never got too excited, just did his job, and he would have been a dream player for any manager.
Yeah, and then he. As I say, he was the goalkeeper in the '66 team that won the World Cup. He had an accident, a car crash, and he lost an eye. While he went and played afterwards for Stoke, and he
didn't play after the accident, Damon.
Oh, sorry, he did. He did. No. He came to Dublin and played against us.
But he did. I know
he wouldn't call that football.
Well, he didn't. He had to retire in England from that. Right. He did go from Leicester to Stoke, all right. But when he got the accident, he had to finish it. He had to finish in England.
Right. Well,
and he's still playing well at that time. You know, it was a very, very tragic time and very sad time for him.
Actually, in 1977, 5 years after the accident, he went. I had to because of financial circumstances. He made a comeback with Fort Lauderdale Strikers in the North American Soccer League at a time, I think, when you were there.
Yeah, I played against him, Eamon.
Yeah,
I was at Philadelphia and played against him, and he played brilliantly again.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. I think he had to finich in England. I'd say he probably would still have to play in England. I don't know, but he was able to play in America and save shots. All right, but no, he was good. He was a terrific attitude, as you say. Like, he wouldn't have been well off like the lads are today. I think he had to go to America or earn a few bob, whatever he could, and do the best he could. So he was a gentleman,
He was, and like a lot of. I saw George Cohen interviewed last night. George is 81, the right back. Fulham. He played for Fulham. George played in the England team, a very, very good player. And he was interviewed last night, and they touched on, the hardship. A lot of these players, and I think George Cohen among them, they had to sell their World Cup medals. They sold their caps. I know Nobby Stiles, your own brother-in-law, Nobby had to sell his memorabilia. It's a terrible indictment of this fantastic group of men that won the World Cup, and that football never really rewarded them properly. And it occurs to me now, someone you knew very well, Alf Ramsey. Alf Ramsey died in penury in a nursing home where his bill was being paid by the late Bobby Robson, who had also managed Ipswich and cared for Ramsey. It is a terrible, shocking and bleak reminder of the nature of football when you and these other great players played it for such little respect and such little financial reward.
Yeah, it is, Eamon. Yeah, it's. I don't know what the circumstances surrounding Gordon Banks or George Cohen. I can only go on Nobby, who I'd be very, very close to, as you know.
Yes.
And there has been certainly a lack of. Like, I remember when Manchester United, for example, somebody said, a cricketer, actually well-known cricketer, said, "Oh, Nobby Stiles selling these World Cup medals, it's disgraceful that he's doing that."
Yeah.
Well, medals don't put bread on the table, Eamon, and no. I think those players, and I only know from Nobby Stiles, have been very, very badly let down, particularly from the Professional Footballers Association.
Yeah, which is hugely wealthy now, because it's getting a share of all the Premier League bounty that's there, and Gordon Taylor, the secretary, is the highest paid trade union leader on planet Earth. But they also have a responsibility which they really don't meet.
No, I think they have a bigger responsibility than anybody else, to be quite honest. Because what Manchester United could possibly say, well, we paid him, I'm talking about Nobby now, we paid him what was the going rate at that particular time, and that's it. But there's no affection. Now, I'm only talking about Nobby. I don't know about George Cohen, but from what I can gather, Eamon,
yes,
none of them have been treated very well.
Let's just remind ourselves about the bonus for winning the World Cup. They won the World Cup in 1966, and the bonus was £1,000, which was actually it was not a lot of money, John, in those days, because the maximum wage had been abolished at that stage for 5 or 6 years, but it was pretty grubby stuff.
Well, apparently, Eamon, that
it was taxed.
Oh, of course, yeah. But what was said at the time, I don't know whether it's true or not, that the FA made a lot of money from it, obviously from the World Cup in '66, and they had a big tax bill. But they had a choice of putting it into a trust fund,
yes,
for the players, but decided to pay the tax.
Yeah, it's an astonishing contrast from the game that we see today, and I must admit, my own personal view is that if Messi and Ronaldo and the guys who are playing today, Aaron Ramsey has attracted some attention this week. He's going to be getting 400,000 plus a week with Juventus, and people are harumping and moaning and complaining. Not for a minute has it ever occurred to me to resent the boys who are getting the money today. Good luck to them.
Yeah, good luck to them. I mean, we played at a time where players were treated very, very badly. There's no doubt about that. Mostly innocent type of lads, but it wasn't there. Now, people often say to me, "Oh, I bet you wish we were playing today with the money that's involved in the game." Well, it would have been very nice to get that money in, but when we were young players playing, money wasn't the issue at all.
No.
And definitely there were lots of players at my time, your time, and before our time who were treated very, very badly.
Yes.
Great players. I know really, really know the stories of them. Very, very badly treated players. So when people ask me today and they say, "Oh, the players are getting too much, look what they're getting," well, they probably are being overpaid, but my attitude to it is I'd rather see them get too much than too little.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not being overpaid.
If the clubs have to pay them, well, then they pay them, But I'd rather see them paid today and see them getting well paid, maybe overpaid at times, than in our day, Eamon, where they were underpaid.
They're not being overpaid.
And badly treated.
They're not being overpaid because the money's there. Sponsors put it in. People are charged for their tickets at the gate. Maybe you could reduce the price for fans, because that's one of the scandals in the game, endemic to the game, in fact. Yeah. But why not give them...
No, I'm not saying they're overpaid. I said a lot of people say they're overpaid. I don't think they're overpaid. Good luck to them, and like we came from a time where the players were badly treated, and that's the way it was, and there was no sentiment in it.
No.
I remember I said I might have finished the story about a cricketer when nobody was selling his medals. Oh, it's outrageous that he's selling his medals. He just didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. But nobody really cares now anymore. The Professional Football, the Football Association of England, there's a lot of those lads. Martin Peters has Alzheimer's now, Ray Wilson had Alzheimer's, nobody has got Alzheimer's. Yes. And lads, none of them, George Cohen, very, very ill, and Gordon. Now, I don't know how those players were treating themselves. I can't talk for them. I can only talk for what I know. Yeah. And it's very, very, very sad, to say the least.
And Jack isn't great, is he, John? At the moment, Jack Jack is strange with Jack. Jack's memory was never good, Eamon. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. He was never good. He got names mixed up. That's the way he was. Indeed. And a couple of years ago, I went to a party at Eddie Gray's house, and a few of the Leeds lads got together, and Jack was there, and he came over to me, and the first thing he said was, "John, now before we start," he says, "my memory is very bad."
Yeah.
Right. Now, if you know your memory is very bad, Eamon, you don't have Alzheimer's. Now he's just got older. Like all of us, he's got older, and like his memory was never great anyway. But he doesn't have Alzheimer's, and Jack doesn't suffer financially, Eamon.
No, I know that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of these players, from what I know, suffered really, really financially. Don't have the resources to do, and no help. From what I know, from my experience, no help.
Whole generations of players suffered like that, John, and had to do things like, in case of Gordon Banks, for example, sell his medals. But he also went to coach or manage Telford United, who were a non-league club, for a season. It ended badly, and great people like George Eastham. We could go on and list all kinds.
You go on forever. There was none of the players, Eamon. I often tell people, Bobby Charlton or anybody else, from my generation of players, your generation of players, none that I know ever finished playing the game financially secure.
No.
It wasn't there.
It wasn't there. No. Okay, John. It's sad to think of Gordon Banks, but he was a great player, great goalkeeper, at a time when there were quite a lot of great goalkeepers.
Oh, yeah.
Just reflecting back, John, at the level I played at, players now are earning over £1 million a year. Can you imagine what I'd been like if I was a millionaire?
The only thing is, Eamon, I often say to people as well, they say to me, "Well, I bet you wish you were playing today." I mean, I know in my time playing, I won the pools in my day. When you won the pools years ago, in those times, Eamon, it was about £25,000 or £30,000.
Yeah.
Like it's £1 million or £2 million now.
Yeah.
I won the pools in my day because you can't put a price on satisfaction and the enjoyment of doing what we did.
That's right.
So that's why I don't resent the players in any way. Good luck to them and what they did. I did you did what you loved doing. I did what I loved doing.
Yeah.
And that was, you couldn't put a price on that.
No. Well, I'll have a go on the way home.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks very much for joining us, John.
Okay.
And I hope Gordon Banks rests in peace, and condolences to his family. He leaves behind him his wife Ursula, and they have 3 children: Robert, Wendy and Julia. The great Gordon Banks sadly passed away yesterday.